All right. Hi, I'm Kipp. I'm the associate pastor, he, him pronouns. We're going to leave Eli on the spotlight for the moment because we have a very special first reading this morning, which comes from Eli. We've been making for several weeks, we've been offering the invitation that if people want to add their voices into worship in any number of ways, we are very open to that and love to have worship shared among the folks who are in the church. A couple of weeks ago, we heard that Eli had a poem that he would like to share with us. So this is that moment for Eli to share his poem. Eli, if you want to tell us anything about it or what you were thinking about when you wrote it, you can do that, or you can also just tell us the title and read it for us.
This is my poem. It's called Stay Strong. There's a little mistype about be strong, but it's just stay strong. And here it is. Some say you are weak, but no, you are powerful. You're strong. Stay that way. Sometimes it's scary. Stay strong. We are with you. Your family's with you. God is with you. You are strong. You have courage. You can rise from the darkness because you are strong and powerful. Your courage brings light so you can end the dark, and we will be there giving hope, love, and courage.
Eli, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That is so courageous. And you talk about courage in the poem, and it takes courage to share your poem with other people. So thank you so much for offering that for us this morning. Our second reading this morning is a Bible reading, and it is one of the assigned Bible readings for Pentecost. And this comes from Paul's letter to the church, the Jesus movement in Rome. Romans chapter 8. And I'm gonna wait just a second. People are putting love in the chat for Eli. So Eli, I want to make sure that you notice the love that you're getting in the chat and from people offering you thanks. So this is the second reading. The second best is the second reading. Romans chapter 8. And it starts kind of in the middle of a conversation, but this is where it starts. We know that from the beginning until now, all of creation has been groaning in labor pains. And not only creation, but all of us who possess the first fruits of the Spirit, we too groan inwardly as we wait for our bodies to be set free. In hope we were saved. Hope is not hope if its object is seen. Why would someone hope for what they already see? And hoping for what we cannot see means awaiting it with patient endurance. The Spirit, too, comes to help us in our weakness. For we don't know how to pray as we should, but the Spirit expresses our pleas with sighs that are too deep for words. And God, who knows everything in our hearts, knows perfectly well what the Spirit is saying, because her intercessions for God's holy people are made according to the mind of God. This is God's good news. The photo on the New York Times website was dramatic, to say the least. The photographer had taken it inside the intimate space of a woman's bedroom. There was a curtain draped suggestively over the bed. On top of the bed was an enormous phallus, we'll call it. So enormous, in fact, that the bed was actually broken in two and lay in pieces under its weight. Chunks of stone and mortar were strewn about, and the windows were knocked clear out of their frames. The caption describing the scene said that it showed Amna Hadayad standing next to an unexploded Israeli bomb that fell inside her daughter's home on Thursday in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza. There is a lot to say about that. A lot that has been said. A lot that is being said. Some of it is helpful, some of it is not. And all of the words in the world feel ineffective. Closer to home, Philadelphia continues to writhe in paroxysms of gun violence. It is not in this regard unlike other places in the country, despite what we might have heard in our recent local district attorney primary race. This whole nation has a lust affair and deeply chaotic relationship with guns. Still, it is true that in Philadelphia, as in so many other places, gun violence is sharply up this year from levels that were already and always too high. On May 13th, the Philadelphia Inquirer reported that the number of people killed and wounded in shootings of 4 or more people has spiked sharply this year. At the time of the article, there had been what they said 8 shootings in which 4 or more people were struck by bullets, with a total of 42 victims. At the same time last year, there had been 2 shootings of that level, with a total of 9 victims. And the day after that article ran, there was another quadruple shooting. There is a lot to say about that, a lot that has been said, a lot that is being said. Some of it is helpful, some of it is not, and all of the words in the world feel ineffective. All of this takes place on a planet that continues to heat up. A study that was released just last month says that glaciers are losing 31% more ice and snow each year than they were just 15 years ago. Scientists calculated that since 2015, the world's 220,000 mountain glaciers have been losing 328 billion tons of ice and snow each year. And they attribute that, no surprise to us gathered here, to the burning of coal and oil and gas. There is a lot to say about that. A lot that has been said, a lot that is being said. Some of it is helpful, some of it is not. And all of the words in the world feel ineffective. It is, as we have already heard, Pentecost Sunday. The birthday of the church is one way to talk about it. If you spent much time around churches, you're probably used to that imagery, and you're probably used to hearing the story from the book of Acts get read today. You know the one. The followers of Jesus gathered together in an upper room during a major festival, still unsure of who it is they are and what it is they're supposed to be doing. All of a sudden, they start speaking in languages that passersby can understand, people who speak those languages that the unlettered Jesus followers have spontaneously mastered. It's one of the many stories in the Bible about people who were written off because of their lack of status, because of who their people were and where they came from, because of the circumstances of their birth, people who had been written off and were still written off, even in the midst of the stories. How Spirit moved among them and showed that our hierarchies are crap, that the ways we sort and value and devalue people are backwards. That's one of the Pentecost stories, and it's a powerful one. It's also built from the scaffolding of Jewish tradition and Jewish story. Pentecost is a Greek word that means 50th. It is what Greek-speaking Jewish people called the holiday of Shavuot. Shavuot is held on the 50th day after Passover. It's got a twofold focus. It did by the time of the New Testament writings. It celebrated the spring barley harvest, so it was an agricultural festival. It was also the celebration of God giving the law through Moses. So the story of Pentecost, in both its Jewish and its Christian versions, is associated with an outpouring of words. But it's also more than that. The language and words of Torah helped give the Hebrew people a sense of who they were with each other and in relation to God. And the outburst of words in the Christian Pentecost mobilized the Jesus followers in new ways. But our other Pentecost readings remind us that the Spirit is more than just a chatbot. The reading from Romans does that. And maybe that's a little ironic because Paul, if you've read the New Testament, Paul was nothing if not full of words. And his letter to the churches in Rome is one of his wordiest. But inside all that wordiness, here is also something else. Breath. Maybe that's not so surprising, really. After all, it takes breath to form speech. But the breath in this passage is not coming to speech. It's full of groans and sighs. The creation groans, we groan, the Spirit groans and sighs inside of us. On the one hand, that just means that we're breathing. Most of you may know this already. In Hebrew and Greek alike, spirit and breath come from the same word, the same thing. We can hear it in our own breath words. To respire is to breathe, to be full of spirit. To conspire is to breathe together. To inspire is to breathe into, to enlarge in spirit. What Paul offers us here is that the groaning and the sighing, the breath that is an inarticulate abundance and welling up of feelings, that's a kind of prayer. The prayer before the words, the prayer before the prayer. Can we conspire? Let's take a breath and hold it in for a beat and let it out, maybe with some noise. Let's do it again. Your own personal sigh that you're making, that we're making together across the distances that separate us. I wonder, for you, when you just sighed or groaned, if that's what you did, that is the other word that shows up in the passage. I don't think I groan that much, except for every now and again when I get up out of a chair or bend down to pick something up. I'm 47 now, it's allowed. Anyway, if you noticed, when you sighed, was it a sigh of relief or a sigh of resignation or something else? Sighs and groans, for that matter, can mean many things. Paul used the image of labor pains, which I'm a childless man, and Paul was a man who may also have been childless, for all his letters say about family. So he and I maybe want to be careful about whipping that particular metaphor around. But he's naming a sort of suffering that holds the possibility, perhaps, of newness. The groaning and the sighing can also be a response to present sorrow. They can also name hope. For you, when you sighed, whatever it was, and whatever else it was prayer. It was spirit gathering and pooling inside you and overflowing. Don't get me wrong, none of this is to devalue the power of words. Words are a big part of how I make a living. And I most definitely don't mean to suggest that the hard things in our world, the pain, the systemic violence, the destruction of the natural world, those things I named at the beginning, I don't mean to suggest that they are best or only responded to with silence, or that there is nothing that can or should be said about them. That's not what I mean. But sometimes the words come too soon and cloud where the prayer might take us. I was reminded of this recently through the wise words of my friend Amy, who was diagnosed with cancer last September. We prayed for her in this space. Over the months since then, she has posted her diagnosis and her treatment odyssey on Caring Bridge. She just had her 3-month follow-up after treatment, and all the news is good. No signs of cancer anywhere, thanks be to God. But she's also finding that recovering a sense of normal on the other side of cancer's trauma and the trauma of its treatment takes a long time. She's also finding that people are drawn to talking too much because they don't know what else to do. So she included this in her latest Caring Bridge post. I offer this, her words. Learn how not to give advice unless asked for. Learn how not to minimize other people's strong feelings. We often do this when we feel helpless. Learn to listen with openness and simply validate other people's experience. That sounds intense. You seem to be carrying a lot. It sounds important to pay attention to all your feelings. I can't imagine what you've been through. I love you. I'm here for you, are sample responses. You might pick up that she's a hospice chaplain. She says, as someone who has come through and is still coming through something devastating, I can tell you that open, caring, listening from others is invaluable. Maybe she's saying, sighing and groaning can be just as helpful as words. Big things bring big feelings. And sometimes big feelings overwhelm and scare us. Sometimes they make us feel helpless. Sometimes we don't know what to do. And so maybe we speak too soon and too much to fill the gaps that might otherwise give too much space to our discomfort. But the hidden secret of Pentecost is that you don't have to have all the words. You don't have to be all the things. What was it that Eli said in his poem? We are with you. Your family is with you. God is with you. The Spirit groans in us, praying in sighs too deep for words. Your helplessness is held in God. Your rage is held in God. Your hope is held in God. Your despair is held in God. Your solace is held in God. Your gasps of pain at the state of the world are prayer. Your hand on a grieving friend's shoulder is prayer. The tears gathered in the corners of your eyes are prayer. Your wild and abandoned laughter is prayer. Your kiss on the lips of your beloved is prayer. Your hip swaying to a syncopated rhythm is prayer. Your anger at the latest injustice, your refusal to accept it is prayer. All of this, all of it is prayer. And all of this, all of it is held in God. And that is God's good news. Amen.